Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Bit and I have $27,000 invested into Palantir. So today we're doing another video on Palantir. Now, today we are talking about why the Federal Aircraft Aviation Association, I definitely messed that up, but the FAA, I think it's Federal Aviation Association. That's what it should be. I totally messed that up. Picked Palantir to host and secure and make sense of all of its data. We are going to be talking about the contract that Palantir got a while back in June 18th, 2021. This is when they PR'd it, but they've probably been working with the FAA. I'm a mess when it comes to this acronym for a long time, and we're going to talk about what this means. Now, in this video, I want to talk about a couple things. Number one, why did the FAA ultimately pick Palantir? For those who don't know what the FAA is, let's call it the Federal Aviation Administration. Today, we're going to make sure we know this acronym. See, this is what happens when you make all these videos and you've Federal Aviation Administration. Yeah, you forget to look up what the acronyms even mean before you make the video. Federal Aviation Administration. Why did they pick Palantir? What was the point of picking Palantir? What was the sort of long-term goal that they wanted to establish with Palantir? And number two, what does this mean for Palantir if it was able to work with the FAA and other sort of organizations or governmental clients that it could potentially work with in the future? What does this mean for the growth trajectory of the company? Now, I want to read off this press release. This is old news, but I want to analyze this news today. It's kind of going back a little bit more deeper. This is what you need to do when you're doing due diligence for a company, and this is really what I want this YouTube channel to be. When I pick a stock, I want to make a ton of content about it that is rich in information and goes back and looks at some of the stuff that's been overlooked or some of the stuff that's not been analyzed as much as it can. And for two reasons. Number one, it helps me understand my investment a lot more. Number two, I hope it gives some valuable information to people who are searching for this information and want to get a deeper dive onto the stock. So any stock I do pick in the future that I choose to actually put capital behind, this is the type of content you can likely expect from me, or at least from the channel for that stock. So Palantir said that it had announced it had been contracted by the Federal Aviation Administration to provide data analytics tools that will help advance the agency's modernization objectives for aviation safety. So this was back in June 2021. Presumably they had maybe been working with them in some elementary role before this time, at least to get to know them, because I'm pretty sure they wouldn't just like randomly hire them out of nowhere. But this is when the contract became official. Palantir Foundry will support the FAA's aircraft certification and continued operational safety activities, including the ongoing monitoring of the 737 MAX fleet's return to service. These are the fleets that are from Boeing. The reason they were not in service is because they were known to not be the safest, even though they were safe for a long time, but then there were some crashes or there was some engine failures, so Boeing put them away, and the FAA kind of regulated that they can't be in service anymore. Obviously, the FAA is responsible for all planes that get into the sky. For those who don't know what it is at a macro level, when you get on an airplane and you travel, the FAA has centers across the entire United States that are monitoring where your flight is going, how your flight is doing in the sky, making sure it has a safe landing, all of that stuff. So a very, very crucial, important administration if you like travel or you go on flights. The one-year contract with 2 additional option years is valued at a maximum of $18.4 million. So that's a lot of money to work with one client, right? And this is sort of the average clientele cost for Palantir or revenue for Palantir comes out to an average about 8.1 million is the last number I saw per contract, which is pretty insane, right? Because one contract guaranteeing $8 million of revenue, it's a lot of money. Using Palantir Foundry will enable FAA aerospace engineers and analysts to more rapidly, efficiently monitorize, analyze, visualize, and share aviation safety data used in the determination of whether an incident presents a past or future safety risk. Palantir's software expertise will help the FAA to sustain their global leadership in the advancement of aviation safety and foster greater agility in adapting to the dynamic environment. Now, what does this mean? Essentially, federal aviation agents have to make sure that when airplanes go in the sky, they are keeping people safe and they are monitoring all the potential risks that are involved with that airplane going to the sky. These are risks that range from weather all the way to risks that range from the technical components of the aircraft potentially failing due to some type of instability, or even things that are going on inside of the plane, right? Is the pilot okay? Are they getting like food poisoning or something? Is something going on that's bad in the plane? All of these things require immense amounts of data to analyze to create efficient and effective outcomes when trying to figure out ultimately how to monitor and visualize that data in order to make sense of it. Palantir Foundry to me is a really, really good fit with the FAA because if they're able to integrate their software, they have probably a multi-decade year relationship, right? Like if you're using one software to sort of analyze the data and make sense of it as an aviation agent, especially if you're non-technical and you just need to make sense of the data, then it makes a lot of sense. Now, the president of Palantir's USG said, "We are proud to be partnering with the FAA to support their critical safety mission, and Foundry allows for the integration of siloed data, transforming the way both public and private organizations operate by creating a central operating system for their data." Really interesting stuff, right? If you think about the iPhone and you think of iOS on the iPhone is a central operating system for all the data, i.e. the applications and the messages and photos and the communication sort of transactions that you store within that iOS data. And it's all on this thing right here, which, is easy for us to be able to operate. This is what Foundry is doing for governmental clients. And the trajectory of how I see this operating is that if Palantir is able to truly create these relationships with large-scale organizations like the FAA, you've got something where $18.4 million for a 3-year contract can become $50 million for a 4 or 5-year contract, especially as Palantir raises their prices because the quality of the service gets better, the data integration becomes better, and they're able to sustain their dominance in the category. Now, the FAA manages American flights. There's a lot of other organizations across the world that manage India's flights or Brazil's flights or I was going to say California. California's part of America. Or Colombia's flights, right? There's all these different places that ultimately monitor how airplanes take off and how they land. There's also other organizations that manage other things besides airplanes. And one of those organizations don't exist, but they have the potential to exist, which is autonomous vehicles. Yes, we are transitioning this into the autonomous vehicle argument. This is the thing I was really excited for because, look, it's a hypothesis, but if autonomous vehicles were to be able to get big, right? I would imagine there is some type of centralized system to monitor them. Now, you would say, well, the cars monitor themselves, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. I mean, I think for example, ARC Innovation's bull case on Tesla is that it becomes like an Uber without the driver for autonomous vehicles. So Tesla literally can take its cars and it can send its cars to a location and the car can go pick up someone for a certain price, right? Without having to buy the Tesla. I'm assuming there would have to be some centralized database that is able to operate and make sure those cars are going correctly, that there's nothing wrong with the vehicles, right? That they're all achieving their mission. All of that stuff ultimately has to be done in some sort of way. And if you could imagine Palantir is able to integrate with the organizations that make sure the sky is safe, could they integrate with organizations that make sure the roads are safe if autonomous vehicles get to the level that they can? And the reason, it might be a little bit of a stretch, but the reason I'm bullish on this is because autonomous vehicles ultimately are leveraging what? Data. Right? To make sure that they stop at the stop sign, right? To make sure that if there's a drunk driver, there's enough indices to be able to recognize, oh, this person's drunk, we should slow down. That's where autonomous vehicles becomes sort of the global hegemon that it can become. And if Palantir is able to integrate with any company, maybe even Tesla or, whatever company has a central fleet of autonomous vehicles that are helping people, there's a big market opportunity there. Additionally, the other reason I think this is important, and this is another bullish sign for the stock, is just because the FAA is trusting one company, right, to actually be able to make sense of its data. And the FAA is responsible for millions of people that are traveling in the sky. So to me, that signals A, that the software is reliable, credible, and meaningful enough to be used by the government and by some of the highest levels of the government, like the FAA. And 2, that the software is actually good at helping them receive unique business outcomes or unique safety outcomes that are necessary for the FAA to operate. The FAA's entire goal is to just make sure people are safe, right? They're not a for-profit entity because they're part of the government. Their whole goal is when people go in the sky, let's make sure that they are safe. And if we have data and analytical tools to visualize how to make them even more safer, to make sure there's just no people dying in the sky, which they're doing a pretty good job of right now, right? Outside of certain things that happen there that sometimes are out of their control. But if they can make sure that aircraft certification, safety monitoring solutions are implemented at scale, then you've got a pretty good partnership there. So overall, I ultimately think that's sort of the main reason here. Additionally, the 737 MAX situation, you guys can look it up what happened to the 737 MAX fleets by Boeing. Those things are likely going to happen again, right? These are situations that airplanes don't have certain operating systems or certain technical procedures that cause them to not go back into the sky. I don't think the probability is low that in the next 10, 20, 30 years, there's going to be some aircrafts either by Boeing or by Airbus that just don't pass regulations because they do something that's wrong in the sky or that they're not the most suited. If Palantir is a operating system that can make that faster for those airplanes to get back into the sky, which means more revenue, more ability to travel, more speed, more efficiency, then that's ultimately going to be effective, right? And I think as long as those problems still exist, which inevitably they will, or hosts of other variations and sort of cohorts of those problems exist, then Palantir as a software could be a meaningful software to resolve some of these issues. So those are my thoughts on Palantir partnering with the FAA. And again, it's a partnership that's valued at about $20 million. These are the types of deals that I think are important to analyze when you're doing due diligence on a company, to go back into the past and look at their press releases and be like, oh, why did this happen? And what does this mean for the company? And what are things that we need to really understand in terms of how these deals are materializing in order to make our investment decision when the stock is at $20? So yeah, those are my thoughts on the FFA. I've been doing that wrong this entire video. I'm so sorry for that. The FAA partnering with Palantir. I feel like it's like a tongue twister or something. My name is Amit. This is the Daily Business Show. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.